I remember fondly my first introduction to PowerPoint because it was really an accident. I was working in a temporary position shortly after having my son, and I was bored out of my mind. So I opened up a computer, had Windows 3.1 on it, that kind of tells you how long ago it was, and I double-clicked this thing called PowerPoint. I had no idea what it was, and as I looked around, I still didn't have any idea what it was, so I quickly closed it down. I remember that and kind of smiled because, as they say, we've come a long way. What I know now is that PowerPoint is a phenomenal tool, and I use it extensively in both my personal and my professional life. In 2007, we saw a great enhancement in picture tools, and in 2010, what you're going to see is even further developments in multimedia. In this chapter, we want to explore what else they've done with our picture tools, as well as the introduction of video editing tools. So if you want to have a little touch of Hollywood that's been kind of hiding in your background, now is the time that you get to explore. We'll also talk about how we can share these presentations, because after all, it doesn't do any good for us to create masterpieces that sit on our own computer. This chapter is going to be a lot of fun, so let's come on along for the ride with PowerPoint 2010's new multimedia and sharing features.
I haven't actually counted, but I guess I've created maybe hundreds, if not close to 1,000 presentations in my life. Some of them have been just for fun, like capturing special occasions or holidays. Many of them have also been business related. As a technology trainer, naturally I create presentations for training classes. But I'm also a business owner, so things like marketing and personnel presentations have been done too. Like so many other aspects of our lives, though, presentations can become overwhelming, especially for broad topics or lengthy discussions. Just like my hard drive, where I use different folders to organize my files, I've often wanted ways to better organize my slides. Sometimes I'll even put them into different presentations and then link one presentation to another to help with this issue. Well, that worked in some ways, but of course it made it harder in other ways. PowerPoint 2010 now comes to the rescue, though, by supporting something called sections within a single presentation file. I know that this has been the answer to what I've been looking for. Let's see what you think. I have a presentation open from my Chapter 6 Project Files folder, and I'll just scroll through it real quick. It's basically a presentation that's intended to assist a company in determining if they have a need for a training initiative or a training intervention, and if so, how do they prepare something that they can present to management, for example, that will basically prove their case. So there's lots of slides with lots of text, a total of about 16 slides, and I think it's fairly well organized. It's not too big yet. 16 slides isn't that bad, but it's starting to get out of control. In other words, it's starting to get where I can't find exactly what I'm looking for quickly enough. So I'm thinking I might want to insert some sections here to help me organize it, as well as to help others who need to work on this presentation with me. So I'm going to go ahead and press my Home key to get back to the start. And then I'm going to press my down arrow to come to slide 2. This is kind of my introductory slide that talks about developing a quality training request and all of the information you'd need to include. And if I go down to slide 3, you'll see that that's where we get to see, do you even need a learning intervention to begin with? So let me go back up to slide 2, and I'm going to create a section, and you're not going to believe how simple this is. It's actually an entry or an option from the Slides group right from the Home tab. There's a section option. I can click on the drop down, and of course, because I don't have any yet, the only option that's available is to add a section. I'll give that a click. There you go. We just created a section. And you say, well, hang on a second. I'm not sure what happened. Well, let's actually go into Slide Sorter view. Because even though we can create sections from the Home tab and working with our other views, I personally think it's much easier to work with this from Slide Sorter. So I'll move down to my views on the bottom right, give Slide Sorter a click, and you notice that it popped me to the end of the presentation, so I'm just going to scroll up. And this is where we can see the section. At the very top, you can see one called Default Section. This one is created the first time we insert a section anywhere in the presentation, because once you start using them, you can't have any slides that aren't contained within a section. So when I created a section starting with slide 2, slide 1 had to be in a section as well. The section I created is right here, after slide 1 and before slide 2, and it's called Untitled Section. That's not where I wanted it though. I wanted it between slides 2 and 3. One of the drawbacks to inserting sections in the normal view is having to remember it will be inserted before the selected slide. In this case, I didn't do it right. No worries, we can control everything right here. There are a few things I could do to fix this, including just moving the slides, but for now I want to right-click on the section bar. We can see all the options for working with the section. We'll get back to these, but for now I'll just choose Remove Section. Notice that even though I removed my section, the default section is still there. Although it's automatically created when necessary, it won't be automatically removed if you take all the others out. Once it's created, it's just like you created it. Now I'll do this a different way. I'm going to click between slides 2 and 3, then I'm going to right-click, and I'll choose to create a section here. There we go. Now you'll notice that when we create a section, it does include the divider bar, and it kind of pops all those slides down. So it's going to group all of the slides in a particular section together. Well, I don't know about you, but I also don't really prefer untitled section. Once I get 4 or 5 of these, it's not going to be very useful. So naturally, like renaming a new folder or a new file, I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to choose Rename the Section. And I'm going to call this one Assessing Need. Once I get that one entered, I simply press Enter or click Rename. And now we can see that we actually have a title for the section. That's going to be a lot more useful. Let me do a couple more of these real quick as well. If I go ahead and click down between my next set of slides where I know I want a section, which happens to be between 9 and 10, I can do the same thing. Right-click, Add Section. It comes in again as Untitled, so I'll right-click, rename the section, and this one's going to be called Determining Content. Let's do one last one. This one will go between 13 and 14. One more time we'll do a rename. And this last one is going to get into the specifics about what You Got It provides, so we'll call it You Got It Solutions. So creating sections either from our regular slide view or from slide sorter view is certainly easy. And I've right-clicked on these bars a few times, but let's go ahead and right-click again and go over some of the options. We've been through renaming and removing. Those are easy. We also can choose to remove a section and the slides. So instead of just the section header and the title itself, you could remove an entire section of slides, which would be great if you were working on a really long presentation. You decided maybe you're running too long, and so you're simply going to remove a whole section because of time or something like that. You also can remove all of the sections if you want to put it back to what we call a flat presentation without any sections. And you can even rearrange things. When you have a section selected, you can right-click, you can move it up, and as long as it's not the last one, which is the one I clicked on, you can also move it down. That, of course, means moving all of the slides along with it. So I can now rearrange my content, whether it be 1 slide or 100 slides all together, kind of like chapters or modules or lessons or whatever terminology works best for you. In addition, kind of like our folder structure on our computer, these are also expandable and collapsible. So I could choose to collapse all. There we go. Now I have the very simplified overview or high-level view of my presentation. I know that I have a default section with 2 introductory slides. I might want to go ahead and rename that too. I can then go to Assessing Needs, which has 7 slides, Determining Content with 4, You Got It Solutions, which has 3, and if I want to expand any one of these out while leaving the other one collapsed down, I can. So I'll click on the little triangle to expand out just this one section. Even though this is a brand new feature, it uses familiar techniques and skills you already have from working with files and folders in Windows. And the benefits here are really numerous. I can organize slides logically, I can move them up and down, I can see the slides that I want to work with, as well as a high-level overview of an entire presentation, no matter how long it is. As the saying goes, anyone can eat an elephant a bite at a time. And with sections, I can either look at the whole elephant, if you will, or I can choose to only look at part of the elephant. I can reorganize the presentation with just a few clicks instead of trying to select lots of things and drag and drop, and I think most of you have probably been there. That's where it gets to be cumbersome. This is going to make it much easier. In the next few lessons, we'll be talking specifically about some of the new transitions and effects in PowerPoint 2010. But one of the other benefits of using sections is that you can apply things like transitions to entire sections at one time instead of individual slides. Here's some of those benefits I can show you right now, though. What if I wanted to print the Determining Content section? Well, in older versions of PowerPoint, I'd have to know and or select the slides I wanted, then go to print. In 2010, I can go directly to print without having to remember all of that other stuff. So let me come up to the top left of my screen, click on File to show you my Backstage view, come down and select Print. And many of the options you'll find are very familiar. However, we also see an option where it says Print All Slides, or I can do certain slide numbers. And of course, we can choose to print the current slide, the selection, all of those. But I want you to look at the very bottom. This is where we actually can see all of our sections. If I want to print a section, regardless of how many slides it contains, all I have to do is simply click the section. Since we just created this presentation, and since you're not very familiar with it, you may not remember how many slides were in the deciding on content part. But guess what? Because I have my preview here, I can show you very simply that it's not the entire presentation, it's only the 4 slides that were included in the section we created. And using the nice preview in the Backstage view, I can scroll through and be sure that those are indeed the slides that I intended. I can only speak for myself, but my brain sometimes reaches buffer overrun, so the fewer things I have to remember, the easier it is. And by being able to use sections, I don't have to try to recall what range of slide numbers I want, especially once I start adding and removing slides. I just need to be able to select the section name from a list. As a person who notoriously has more to do in a day than there are hours to get them done, I need every possible tool I can get to help me. And these things help me organize and work efficiently, and by using sections, this is something that I have often thought about conceptually, even attempted to achieve in my own way, by using other kinds of workarounds, if you will. But like linked shows that don't really work the way I want, I've always been looking for something a little bit more. Now 2010 makes it all possible, so that working with large presentations and managing and even printing them is just going to be a snap.